welcome to this webinar. This webinar has been organized by the Weekly Fasting Group. It's an international WhatsApp group. I manage this group, and the purpose of this group is to help people change their lives one fast at a time. On the practical level, we help people cultivate the habit of fasting once a week between 24 and 36 hours, and do it on a consistent basis, week after week after week. We have members from all over the world, and from our experience, this kind of short fast done on the consistent basis helps people change all aspects of their lives, starting with their dietary choices and ending with their relationships, businesses, and other things. We get lots of success stories from people about different aspects of lives that improved as a result of this particular habit. So if this idea of short fast every week appeals to you, then and you would like to join the group and start cultivating this habit, then I'm going to post my WhatsApp number on the chat here, and you're welcome to send me WhatsApp message with your name, and I'm going to happily add you to this fasting group. And in the group, we have lots of friendly communication throughout during the fasts and in between the fasts, and it's lots of fun. And we also have webinars like that about different subjects related to healing, related to cleansing, related to spirituality, mind over matter, and other things. So, and today we have with us Aruna, our dear Aruna, who is a fasting practitioner herself and who is a very experienced meditation teacher. She's going to give us a webinar to enlighten us on the subject of mind over matter. So Aruna, over to you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. And welcome to everyone. And I must say, yes, it's a little fasting family. The fasting group is like a little fasting family. So let us begin. Eric had asked us to do a little meditation. So I would like to just begin with some meditation, and then I have some PowerPoint slides. Sometimes people like to see things and then it registers. So I'll show that, and then we can have questions. You can write your questions in the chat, and then Eric will take those questions, and I'm happy to answer those. And let's see what else transpires after that. So yes, just sit quietly, just try and let go of anything that you're holding, and sit comfortably. So firstly, just let's be in this moment. I'm just so happy to be present in this now moment. There's nowhere else I want to be right now than in this present moment. And just take deep breaths as you sit quietly with yourself. Just trying to soak in this present moment. Just feel the purity of this moment. This moment is totally unpolluted by the past or the future. this moment right now is my reality. All I know is this moment. And with every breath I take in peace. And with every breath that I exhale, I let out all the stress and tension. So as you breathe in, you can also say that quietly in your mind. I breathe in peace and I release all stress and tension. I surround myself with light, beautiful, warm, kind, caressing light. This light becomes my aura and my shield of protection against any kind of unwanted energy. Just feel that light around you and also within you. I am the light. You are the light. All I see is light. My world is bright with light. And wherever I go, I will take this light with me. I will shine my light. We call it double light. The light of the light, the light of lightness, easiness, flexibility. I allow things to flow. I allow people to be. I go with the flow. All we have to do is just shine our light. And whoever wants will ignite their light too, through my light. So once again, just relax, just let's be in this moment. Let's turn our mind to the seminar now. Om Shanti. So Om Shanti means I am a peaceful soul. This is our greeting of peace to all of you. So once again, welcome everyone. And I will start with the PowerPoint. So the topic today is mind over matter. And it's in regard to your fasting. So I will focus quite a bit on managing our mind with regard to fasting, and also generally some issues around our life. So Mark Twain said, age is a matter of mind over matter. If you don't mind, then it doesn't matter. So this is my first question to all of you. Do you mind when somebody asks you your age? Because honestly, if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And this is just an example of how if we allow something to matter, that means that we have started to take a lot of concern or worry, or in our language we say we've started to create a lot of thoughts. And so that starts to affect us. And this is how we then begin to lose our peace of mind or our happiness. So again, I would say just don't mind, right? Let it go, don't mind. Okay. So basically, I'm just going to reduce this. Okay. So basically, yes, mind over matter is the use of willpower to overcome physical problems. This is actually the dictionary definition. And if you think about it, we need to use a lot of this when we are actually fasting. Willpower, or in Hindi actually, because I know there's quite a few people who speak Hindi, it's called manobal, right? Which is your willpower or your inner morale. And manobal actually means power of the mind. Literally, man, mind, bal, power. And so it's really the power of the mind, whether we're able to restrain ourselves with food or other desires or attractions. And so if we could just strengthen our mind, then we can actually overcome all other, let's say, problems or difficulties or things that we find that we are, finding difficult in our lives. So my point with this slide is just that, firstly, yes, it's the dictionary definition of mind over matter, but also the focus is on mind having the power over the matter and not the other way. And this is where we have to now understand the mind. So many people believe that the mind is not visible, right? Many people think, who has seen the mind? And everybody thinks that it's this quiet space inside of us, this quiet conversation that goes on in our head that nobody is privy to. But think about it. Isn't the face the index of the mind? Like if you're having a really good state of mind, like in other words, if you're feeling great, you cannot help but to express that greatness. You can never suppress your happiness. In the same way, you can never suppress your sorrow or sadness, as much as you try. Somebody, even maybe somebody close to you, will get to know that something is not right. So as much as we'd like to think that the mind is this quiet space, it's not. And so, yes, we know our mind, but also we say things like, I'm changing my mind, right? When we change a decision, we say, I'm changing my mind. And we also say to other people, oh, please don't mind, right? Whatever I say, how I say, please excuse me, like this. We also use the term mind like this quite loosely. So there is some relationship with the mind, which we'll talk about a bit more later, but it's not completely private. It is obvious. It is, let's say, conscious to the other person. And so we should stop living as though nobody sees what's going on in my mind. Everybody can see what's going on in our mind. And people have studied our mind, believe it or not. And so this gentleman, Al Rees, has actually written books on marketing and in particular our mental positioning. And I just want to share with you a few of the quotes to illustrate to you how people do understand our mind and how they leverage on our thinking and how they manipulate our mind as well. So, for example, Al Rees is saying in one quote that it's the first company to build the mental positioning that has the upper hand, and not the first company to make the product, because he says IBM didn't invent the computer. Sperry Rand did, but IBM was the first person to build the computer positioning, or let's say it puts this mental positioning that I need the computer. I can't do without the computer, or I need the latest gadget, or it creates this idea in your head. So it creates this mental positioning in your head that this is what you need, right? The prospect is us. We are the prospect customer. And, sorry. Yes, and he's saying the single most wasteful thing you can do in marketing is to try and change a mind. Because what he meant is that people are already fixated. They already know what they want. And you just have to lure them into that, right? This is what he was trying to say in that extended quote. The basic approach of positioning is not to create something new and different, but to manipulate what's already up there in the mind and to retie the connections that already exist, right? So he's saying, get to know your customer, get to know what they want, and then just tweak that, manipulate. In other words, match what you have to offer to what your customer already knows what they want. And then he's saying, don't play semantic games with the prospect, that's us, the customer. And he's saying, advertising is not a debate, it's a seduction, right? So to really bring this point to home, I would like us to do a little exercise now, where I'd just like you to sit quietly. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to speak some random thoughts. If you like, you can even close your eyes for this. So I'm going to speak these random words, and I just want you to observe what happens to your mind, that is your thoughts, to your feelings, and then we'll talk about it. Sunrise. an orange, a garden, a serene lake, roses, thorns, blood, oxygen, a knife, a strawberry, peace, love. Okay, so what was happening? You don't have to tell me, but just to observe. So when I used words like thorn and knife and blood, and now also we have association with oxygen. So perhaps it triggered something in you. So all day, every day, we are being triggered with the words that we hear on TV, on the radio, on social media, in the news. And what's happening? We are reacting and responding. And the marketers know this. And so they sometimes purposely use such words to emote us, to create that reaction. And we really need to have a strong mind that stays uninfluenced amidst all this chaos, or let's say manipulation, as or seduction, as Al Rees was saying. Because if we already know that this is what they're doing to us, then let us not be slaves to that. Let us be masters of our mind, and let us make the choices. Let us create the thought first, rather than for it to be a reactionary thought towards something else external to us. And so for this, we actually need a strong mind. And so I have a couple of stories here. One of them is this concert pianist, Lee Shikun. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So he became one of China's top concert performers until 1966. And then the Cultural Revolution started, and he was in prison for 8 years. Now, when he returned to give concerts after he was released, he was playing even better than before. And when he was asked, how comes? Because he hadn't played for so long. And he said, but I did. I practiced every day. in my mind. He practiced note by note in his mind. And then another story I have to tell you is that there was a Japanese general, and apparently it's a real story. There was a Japanese general, and he had to take his army to fight, to battle. But his army was like minuscule compared to the opponent's army. And he thought, how are we going to win this battle? So what he did is he took the army to the battlefield, but on the way he stopped at a Shinto temple. And he went inside to pray to the goddess. And when he came out, he had a coin in his hand, and he said, his men were there outside, and he said, I'm going to toss this coin, and if it's heads, we're going to win, and if it's tails, we're going to lose the battle. So he flicked the coin, and it fell on the floor, and lo and behold, it was heads. So the whole army got charged up and just had that faith that yes, 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 we're going to win. Just with that toss of a coin, he charged them up, and they literally went to battle and they won. Then his lieutenant comes to him and says, well, that was a very good battle, wasn't it? And the general says, yes, especially when the coin was heads on both sides. So the point being that he knew that the only way to convince his army was to make them believe that they could win. And so he used this technique to instill in them that it's possible. And once they believed it, that's it. They could do it. Right? So isn't that the case with many of the things in our life, that once we believe we can do it, we can do it? And again, just to emphasize the power of our thoughts. So this is Professor Masaru Emoto, and I'm sure you've heard of him. He's passed away now, but he's published several volumes of work on messages from water, where he takes water samples and he puts some message on the beaker, then takes the sample again after a week or 10 days. And what he noticed is that this is the water crystal on the left before the prayer, and this is the water crystal after the prayer. And I want to say that he also had been to Mount Abu, which is the ashram of the Brahmakumaris. And there was an experiment done there at 4 a.m. during the 4 a.m. meditation. So again, he took sample before, then there was water put in front of the table, and all yogis were meditating, hundreds of yogis. And then he took the sample again, and similar result. And so this is the power of the mind. This is the power of the thought. And I believe that if you even do this with your own water, so even if you have a water bottle, just put on it. The best words to put on it are thank you and love you. So if you just put words on it, like for a while on our water bottle, we were putting a big typed up sign as well. I don't know where it's gone now, but we did do it for a while. So yes, I believe we can't see these things with the naked eye, but I do believe that our thoughts are working. But let's see where the thoughts come from and what is the effect of those thoughts. So here we have an iceberg, okay? Now, the air current is, let's say, moving from right to left, and the water current is moving from left to right. So, of course, which direction is the iceberg moving? Take a guess. It's moving in the direction of the water, right? So those of you who said that, yes, you're right. And why it's moving in the direction of the water is because there is greater mass under the water. Okay? So what does this prove? This proves that we are being driven by what is under the surface more than what's above the surface. So our attitudes, perceptions, feelings, beliefs, thoughts, ideas, desires, and much more is actually the driving force behind our words and actions. It's not our words and actions that are driving us. A lot is under the surface. So, for example, we might say, oh, I'm not feeling too great today. So if I'm not feeling too great, do you think that you can get out and conquer the world? Definitely not. And if you are feeling great, can anyone stop you? Definitely not. So we are governed by how we think and what we feel. And so it's very important that we get this right before heading out to the hills. It's really our every thought that determines what our life is going to be like, what even our relationships are going to be like. It's our every thought. Even before the words, it's our thought. So of course, if I'm thinking positive, then relationships will be positive. So again, just to drive this a little more to home. Okay, here is your mind, and your mind creates thoughts. Then there is some sensation in the body. So for example, if I have a fearful thought, sometimes what do we say? I have butterflies in my stomach, right? And then this gives birth to some bodily reaction. So maybe the adrenaline starts, and we all know the fight or flight response, right? Your eyes widen, you start breathing heavily, etc. if it's a fearful thought. And then that is expressed through action. So if I think this is fear, then I will combat it with some attack. Again, let's take another example. So if I'm thinking peaceful thoughts, then what are the sensations in the body? I'll be feeling calm. I'll be feeling good. My every organ is thanking me. And then the body responds. It doesn't react. The body says, oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy. And then when we express through this body, this vehicle, then again, it's all good. So you can see how my inner world shapes my outer world, right? And you can see that when we really strengthen, this is our core, right? The core is our inner world. When we strengthen that inner core, then our actions, our character, everything is standing on solid ground. But if our mind and our thoughts are not strong, then what have we got to build on? Because if the foundation is weak, what is the building going to be like? And so this is why it's so important every day to sit in some kind of meditation or prayer and really strengthen the mind. Now, what happens, just to show you how this vicious cycle works. So we have the vicious cycle of negative thinking, where as I think unreasonable, negative, and irrational thoughts, then there's feelings of panic, fear, worry. And again, my behavior is inappropriate, not good response, not the right response. And then, of course, my performance is poor. And then what do I say? I say, yes, I'm right. See, I knew I couldn't do it. So I've fulfilled this self-fulfilling prophecy. I said I couldn't do it, and I've not been able to do it. And see, I'm right. Okay? Just at this point, I would like to just address, because of the negative thinking, I would like to address doubt, fear, worry, and thoughts like this. Now, doubt, worry, fear are very low energy thoughts. And they actually do weaken my immune system. They're weak thoughts. So if anybody's worrying, let me ask you, does it serve any purpose? No. I just feel, why do we worry? It doesn't get us anywhere. If there's a problem, let's start dealing with it. Let's take action. If there's a doubt, let's clear the doubt. And if there's fear, we have to replace it with love. The opposite of fear is love. So this kind of negative thinking doesn't serve us. I always say in my classes, give me one good reason why you should think negative. There's never been so far, maybe today you might be able to give me one, but there's never been a good reason why one should think negative. It just doesn't serve our being. Now, in the same way, just to show the opposite, this is the virtuous cycle of positive thinking. So when I think positive, rational, powerful, reasonable thoughts, then of course I have feelings of confidence and courage. And my behavior is appropriate, convincing, and my performance is excellent. So you see how everything starts with the thought. Everything in the world starts with a thought. And then what do we say? Like what Henry Ford said. He said, yeah, see, I'm right. So if you think you're right, you are. And I mean, if you think you can, you are right. And if you think you can't, you are also right. Yeah. Okay, so what is the missing piece? Is it the missing piece or the missing piece? What's the missing piece in the soul? And that is that we need to acknowledge that I, the soul, am the master of my mind. And what this means is it's not the body that's driving the mind. It's the mind that is driving the soul. I mean, it's the mind that's driving the body, sorry. The mind is in the soul is driving the body. And so, especially when we think about fasting, or especially when we think about taking up a certain discipline, it's the soul that has to be convinced. The soul has to come on board that this is what I want to do. And when I have understood that, that's the peace that I'm talking about. That's the mental peace, the peace of contentment, the peace of understanding. It's that aha moment when I say, okay, I got it. That's what we call illumination, enlightenment. Like even when we use this language, we say my mind. Whose mind? Whose mind is it? When we say my body, whose body is it? So I am the master of my body. And so when we come to understanding fasting, it's actually the hunger in the soul that we have to quench. It's not the hunger of the body. And the hunger of the soul is this need for inner peace, inner contentment, for pure love, for for honesty, for kindness. This is the hunger of the soul. And we all know that there is something called emotional eating. So we eat to fill the emotion. And when we eat to fill the emotion, it's never enough because we're trying to fill that emotion from outside in. Even if it's something given to us with love. But that's not the love that the soul seeks. The soul is seeking my self-attention. The soul is seeking my attention from inside. And once I start to give myself that attention from inside, then I start to feel full. I start to feel complete. And I want to point out here, this is a very, I heard this some years ago and it has stayed with me, and then I looked her up again. But I heard this talk a few times and I encourage you to also. And it's Sandra Amott. And it's a TED talk from 2013, Why Diets Don't Usually Work. And she's written a book or two on this. So she's saying that psychologists classify eaters into two groups: those who rely on their hunger and those who try to control their eating through willpower, like most dieters. Okay, one who rely on their hunger to tell them if they're hungry or not, and the others who say, no, I'm not going to eat. I've decided, that's it. So she says, let's call them intuitive eaters and controlled eaters, right? Intuitive, your intuition is telling you, or you're controlling it. Now, she says the interesting thing is that intuitive eaters are less likely to be overweight, and they spend less time thinking about food. Whereas controlled eaters are more vulnerable to overeating in response to the advertising, like supersizing and the all-you-can-eat buffet or all these Big Macs, etc. And basically, if you continue listening to the talk, she's saying the only way you can lose weight is with mindful eating, mindfulness. So she's saying when we actually sit and eat only when we are hungry, then we are actually respecting ourselves. Whereas when somebody is trying very hard not to eat, that means all their focus is going on the food. And so she's saying we spend more time looking at the food itself. But let go of thinking about food, just get on with your day, do what you need to do. And then when you feel hungry, then eat. And she said that she herself lost, I think, about 10 kilos doing that. But I want to focus on the mindfulness. When we eat, what are we doing when we're eating? I mean, what are we doing the same time that we're eating? And chances are we will be talking to others, we will be watching TV, we'll be maybe looking at our phone. And this doesn't get us in touch with our body. This doesn't get us in touch with this feeling of satiation. So we will never know whether I'm full or not. And then I think, oh, this portion has been given to me and I have to finish it. And I'm not even looking to see whether my hunger has been, quenched or not. So when I eat in silence, now this is another reason I just found out from somebody here. Another reason why we eat in silence is not just for the sake of the soul and respecting the self. But apparently, when you open your mouth, when you're eating, then you are taking in air, you're taking in oxygen. And this then oxidizes the food that you're taking in. And so the idea is that you take a morsel, you close your mouth, you close your lips, and you chew it. and then you swallow it, and then you open your mouth for the next morsel. So you can see why when our gurus told us to eat in silence, it was also for physical health, right? Not just mental well-being, but physical health. So are we in touch? This is the question. Are we in touch with ourselves? Are we in touch with our mind? And this is where I would say that we have to practice conscious contentment. Is more really better? We always think we need more, and we'll be happier. But is more better, or is it worse? And my experience of fasting is, I think everybody should at least practice, even if you don't do it regularly, but I think you should at least do it once or twice. Because when you start fasting, you realize you really don't need that much to eat. So from 3 meals a day, from about 2 years ago, we went to 2 meals, and now we're down to 1 meal a day. And of course, it doesn't mean that's all you eat and then you eat nothing. I have a date, I have fruit, but it just shows we don't really need that much. And then how much is enough? How much is enough of anything? Do you think that you're being paid enough? Do you think that your salary is enough? Do you think you have enough things in your house? Do you think you have enough clothes in your wardrobe? Do you think you have enough money in the bank? How much is enough? So this idea of enough is again a mental concept. And what is it enough for? Is it enough for my security? Is it enough for my happiness? Is it enough for my sense of feeling powerful, success? What is it enough for? Just leaving you with these questions, really. Think about it. And conscious contentment means, as I said, mindful eating. Eat little, but be content with what you receive. This is also why we give grace to food. We thank the Lord for giving us our daily bread. And when we go shopping, do mindful shopping. Do we need it just because it's cheap? Do we need it just because it's on sale? Why are we hoarding things? And what's the security that we're trying to feel as we buy this and that and keep this and that? So this is why I'm saying we have to practice a higher awareness, that I need to focus on my mind. I need to be more aware that I need to nurture my soul. And when I strengthen the soul, the body will follow. When I make my soul full, then really the body needs less. This is why really the gurus of India, they eat very little. Many, many, many years ago, my father had invited one guru to London. And I was very young, but I remember this thing, that he only ate 1 meal, and he only ate fresh food. So he only ate fresh cooked food once a day. And then in the evening, he would have some milk and he would have banana in it. That's it. And that was enough for him. So why? Why is it enough for some and not for others? So it is this conquering of the senses. It is conquest over the tongue or the palate, which actually comes from the mind. And that's why it's so important to practice conscious contentment. So what does that mean? That means this higher awareness means that I have to say, I have enough. I'm full. I have abundance. I have everything I need right here, right inside of me. This is conscious contentment. So I need to create these thoughts, powerful thoughts, and always to see the glass half full. My life is great. Everything's great. Everything's happening for a higher reason, a higher purpose. This is the kind of thinking, this is the kind of feeling, being that I need to practice. So let's go into thoughts. What are our thoughts? So of course I've listed some points, but I feel there's a lot more to it than this, but maybe you can continue with the list. What are our thoughts? Our thoughts are the most valuable currency. Our thoughts are powerful if we allow them to be. So let us not waste them. Our thoughts are an investment. In other words, when we, have a thought and you're putting that thought idea into something, then yes, it's going to create something, right? In that sense, it's an investment. So point them in the right direction. Thoughts are oxygen for the soul. So if we say that food is the fuel for the body, then thoughts are the fuel for the soul, which is the oxygen. And so it gives life, right? That's why we need to have new thoughts. That's why we come to listen to seminars and other people's learning, so that we get new thoughts. We add new oxygen to the soul. We add newness. Food for the soul. So what does this mean? Food for the soul means that which actually, as I said earlier, yes, gives energy to the soul. So there's difference between oxygen and food in our literal life. In the same way, there's a difference in the soul. And I'll talk about oxygen a bit later as well. We'll do a practice on that. Okay, food for the soul. So let me create only good thoughts. Like we all know that we will not eat junk food. We know what junk food does to the body. So we're very mindful and conscious, right, of what we put in our body. So what about our thoughts? Let us be mindful of the thoughts that we create, because they're only going to affect us, affect me. And then our thoughts are my identity. In other words, our thoughts reflect, because our thoughts will become our words will become our actions. So they will reflect what kind of a person I am. And so this is where I need self-responsibility, because only I can create my thoughts. Only I am the master of my thoughts. Nobody creates my thoughts for me. I'm the master of my thoughts. So let me be conscious of the types of thoughts I'm creating, because they will define me. Thoughts are seeds. And so again, be mindful. What am I thinking? Because whatever I think, I'm planting those seeds. And then if there's a big tree, if there's thorns, what do I say? Oh no, that wasn't me. No, again, I have to take self-responsibility. So if you have a thought of doubt or fear, you're planting those thoughts. So yes, if you have fear, yes, you might bring it on because of law of attraction. But somewhere you planted that seed. Thoughts are energy, strength. In Hindi, we say urja. They give strength. Like, so again, very strong, determined, powerful thoughts makes us very strong and mighty. And thoughts are our best friend, yes, or worst enemy. So yes, you can either create good thoughts and feel good in the company of your thoughts, or you can drive yourself crazy by having negative thoughts, fearsome thoughts, depressive thoughts. So now back to fasting, right? There's only this one word on the slide because I think it's important to just focus on that. Now, in terms of fasting, I think we have to have a very strong reason why we should fast. Now, I fast not for weight loss, or I don't fast because of really cleansing the body. But I'm fasting because I want to create a strong will. I'm fasting because I want to create a strong mind. And so every time I say no to that food, or I decide and then stay with that thought, that's my purpose. I have to remind myself that that's my purpose. I want to create a strong me. So I think everybody has to find their strong purpose. Everything in life has a purpose. Even now, if you look around you, everything, this cup and this laptop and these lights and curtain and everything has a purpose. What is your purpose? It's only humans that don't recognize their purpose. But everything in the world exists because of a purpose. Even in the animal kingdom, in the plant kingdom, if you have one plant that pricks you, there'll be another plant beside it that will heal you. So even in nature, everything is organized and systematic. So when I have a purpose, what is purpose? Purpose is a strong thought. Purpose is my reason for being. Like when people are dieting, I mean, literally physically dieting, they say, I want to lose weight. I want to look slimmer. I want to look better, whatever. So they start to visualize themselves. And that becomes their purpose. So this is why I'm saying, find your strong purpose. And then once you focus on that with visualization, then you make it happen. Now, when we plant a seed, whether we are consciously doing it or not, we are watering it every day. We are watering it every day. What does that mean? We are giving it attention every day. So in the same way, when I plant a seed in my mind that I'm going to do this, I can't just think the thought and leave it. I have to now water that thought every day with attention. And for me, it's my purpose to be, my purpose to exist. So as I said, that's for me, but you find out what is your purpose to be and why you should do it. And then that becomes your motivating force, you see? And when that becomes your motivating force, then there's no stopping you because it's you. You have created that thought. You've planted that thought. So what are the sources of power? Let's just quickly go through this. Where does the mind get its power from? So one is definitely positive thinking. You have to think positive. Really, if you take nothing away from this seminar and just take away this, that is great. You have to think positive because negative thinking will kill you. It is so detrimental to health. All the gossiping or the doubts we have in others, the doubts we have in ourselves, all this is negative thinking. And it's not good. It's not good for me. It's not good for my relationships. So let's give everything the benefit of the doubt. Let's trust the process. Let's trust the drama. There must be a reason why this is happening. Let's try to look into that reason. And again, positive thinking creates a powerful mindset. That's why we want to think positive. Practice virtue and not vice. So what do I mean by that? So that means let me focus again on the goodness. Because when I exercise anger and greed and attachment and ego, then what's happening? I'm losing power. I'm drawing power from the mind. I'm not adding to it. So a good example would be when I really share pure unconditional love with somebody else, I feel good. right? When you do a good deed for somebody, don't you feel good? But when you steal something from somebody, do you feel good? No. And then you have so many waste thoughts. Then you have regret, then repentance. Then you're worried about, whether you'll be caught or not. So virtue is like this, let's say, blessing that comes my way, and that blessing becomes a source of power. Stay in the now moment, like we did the exercise in the beginning. So just to be in the now moment. Again, if I'm thinking of the past or the future, I'm losing energy. If I'm worrying, okay, we can plan. We can plan a few years ahead. You save some money. Okay, you're going to do this course, whatever. But to be overthinking about the future, that's waste. And then if you're thinking about the past too much, now the past is gone. And I always say the only way to change the past is to change the present, because this present will become the past. And does anybody drive a car looking in the rear window? No. We have to look forward. Past is past, past is gone. It's the life ahead of you that matters, not the life behind. So when I focus in the moment, I'm giving that moment everything I have. And of course, this moment will then become my past. And so then I'll be happy with my past. Okay, so again, just try practicing mindfulness of being present in the moment. Don't need to worry too much about the future. Everything will sort itself out. Of course, meditation and silence, I have to mention that, because as we sit, meditation is really an act of self-love, in my opinion. When I sit with myself, I'm giving myself that love and attention, and listening to myself. And then also periods of silence. So silence is what? Silence is fasting of the mind. When I don't think too much. So really try to simplify your life where you don't have to think too much. Then you will conserve the power in your mind. And then happy, happy mind. What I mean here really is just stay light and happy. Try to not, really don't put your head into too many things. Try not to get upset. Don't be so fixated. Don't try to be a perfectionist. Stay cool, stay calm. Just have a happy mind. Be light and easy, and you will conserve the power in your mind. And then, of course, detachment. We say mental detachment. So mental detachment means emotionally to be detached. Of course, you cannot leave your home like a renunciate and go live in the mountain. We don't have to do that. That's not necessary. But we have to practice detachment, which means we have to try and be an observer to our life and what's happening. And when I practice that observer state, a bit like when you go to the theater. When you go to the theater, you go to enjoy, right? Even if it's a very dramatic play. But you sit and you enjoy and you say, wow, wonderful, good acting. In this way, can I look at what's happening with that sense of enjoyment and pleasure and just be detached? This also creates a very strong mind. So in other words, don't react to everything that's happening immediately. And lately we are practicing here, like even if you get hungry, don't respond to that hunger so immediately. Give yourself a few moments. Don't just give in to the senses. Be detached a bit. Say, okay, yeah, I hear you. You're hungry, you're thirsty. Okay, I'll give it to you. Just wait. Do you see? So just try and practice a little of that detachment. Okay, quickly, I'm just going to say some of the thoughts I create for my fasting, okay? Maybe some of you say this, maybe some of you say something else, but for those of you who are new, so basically when I'm fasting, if I'm busy and I'm well rested, I don't really need to talk a lot to myself, but otherwise I say it's only for a short time. I'm clear why I'm doing it. As I mentioned earlier, I have a strong motivation, And then I say, I'm not going to die from not eating for a few hours. I'm getting healthy as I do it. My mind, and it's true, my mind really becomes clearer. As we eat less, the mind becomes clearer. I'll become strong as I conquer this and this and this. That's what I mean. I conquer, whatever, this meal and this cake, etc. My body is loving the break and I'm losing the fat, right? I'm losing weight. And then each organ is having a holiday. And because it's having a holiday, it's taking care of the housekeeping. In other words, it's doing the self-cleaning. So like if nobody's in the house, then the cleaners can come and clean more easily. But if there's a lot of people in the house occupying the spaces, they can't clean the house. So give your body a break, give your organs a rest. And then, as I said, I really do it because I'm strengthening my mind, because every time I resist, I'm strengthening the mind. Okay, now this is just quickly, we're not going to read through it, but I just had the slide and I thought it's appropriate. But these are affirmations that you can use for health, for love, for weight loss, self-esteem, peace and harmony. Okay, if you want, you can just take a picture of that. So affirmations are very good. They're positive, powerful statements that I tell myself. And really the body responds, life responds when I create a very strong, powerful thought. And lastly, I would like us to talk about a calm mind, okay? And what do I mean by that? So one of the things that I learned recently also is that, did you know that the monkey actually breathes about 32 breaths a minute, right? 32 breaths a minute, the monkey. And the human breathes about 18 breaths a minute. Now, the tortoise, and especially the old tortoise that's like 300 years old, he breathes 4 breaths a minute. Now, you can see that when we get restless, when we get stressed, when we're afraid, we breathe very fast, right? That means we hyper breathe, let's say. And when we do that, we become restless. And when we become restless, we can't think clearly. We're confused. And so what I mean about spiritual breathing here is we need to have few thoughts and powerful thoughts, just like the breathing has to be few breaths, but very deep breaths. So let us create quality thoughts and not quantity thoughts. It just takes one very powerful thought. If you're in a group, right, of negative people, and you just inject that group and tell them, hey guys, like that general did, right? It just took one coin to tell everyone, you know what, we're going to win. And when everybody's on board with that thought, then the power of the unity, the power of the gathering just makes it happen. So what I'm saying is when my mind is calm, then I can plant those seeds and then the seeds take root. You cannot plant seeds in a hyperventilating mind. And so for this, yes, few thoughts. Keep the mind clean and simple. Few thoughts. Deep, powerful thoughts. So I'd like us to just practice that for a minute. And here is my blog for those of you who don't know. It's timetomeditate.org. Okay, there's lots of things there. You can have a look. Okay. So I would just like us just for 1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute. Let us just sit quietly, peacefully. And as I said, let us just create a very calm mind, a very still mind. So I'd like you to just visualize that your mind is like a serene lake. Just very still. And now I'd like you to imagine that there is a stone thrown into that lake. And what do you observe? You observe the ripples, one after the next. So in the same way, every thought I create is creating a ripple. So let my thoughts be very light. Let my thoughts be bright. Let my thoughts be kind. And just focus on your breathing for a moment. Just take deep breaths. And as you take deep breaths, you realize that even your thinking becomes slower. Let's just sit in silence for a few seconds. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone. Happy to take any questions if you have.
Let's see. Thank you, Sister Aruna. Love the Buddha in the background. Okay, guys, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Feel free to type your questions on the chat. Aruna, so I would love to use this opportunity and ask you, you were talking a lot about positive thinking, about directing your thinking into the positive stream. Now, how do you do it on the practical level? Let's say if a person finds themselves immersed in negativity, negative thinking, what should they do? How do they reverse? Should they impose on themselves the opposite thoughts or any other strategy? What would you recommend?
Yeah, see, if my negative thinking gets out of hand, in other words, I'm finding that I'm not able to control it with my thoughts, then the suggestion that I give is that people just get into some positive action, not positive thinking, but positive action. So by that, I mean, like, start doing somebody else a favor, or start cleaning up somebody else's room, or just get into some good positive action. Because what happens is that it takes you out of that space and you get into the space of being of service and doing good. And really, from that place, you will boomerang back and your thinking will change. So I'll give an example. Like when I was 19, I had a little bit of depression. In fact, I didn't even know that it was depression. And I just felt I'm not feeling good. What's going on? But as I said, I couldn't even, I didn't even identify it as that. I'd wake up and I think, oh, what's the point of living? And then I told one friend, well, kind of a friend, and I said, yeah, I'm thinking this. And she said, oh, it sounds like depression to me. And I said, really? Anyway, soon after that, I started getting involved in some voluntary work and just helping people in this office. And that just pulled me out of it. I just felt so good being there with them, doing what I was doing. I felt purposeful. I felt happy. And yeah, if she hadn't told me it's depression, I would not even know today that I had that, you see, because it was a feeling that came and then, or maybe it wasn't depression, I don't know. But anyway, it was a feeling that I wasn't comfortable with. And then I got into some, good deeds and pulled myself out of it.
Amazing. Amazing. So the key is to get engaged in positive action.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's see on the chat if we have any more questions. Thank you very much. Very informative and practical. Om Shanti. Okay, so there is a question from Haji. What habits can we cultivate to strengthen our willpower? Very good question.
What habits can we cultivate to strengthen our willpower?
Yes.
Yeah, well, fasting is a great way, really, because it's literally something practical, physical. So, but again, you have to be careful, right? And I'm not the main expert. There are other experts in the group. But why I'm saying fasting is because it's a good form of restraint where you literally tell yourself, okay, you're not going to have this. You decide you're not, well, either you're not going to eat at all or you're only going to eat something that you decide on, and that's it. Or you're just going to have fruit or a monofruit. The point is, once you have a thought, can you carry through that thought? That's fasting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The way to strengthen the muscle of the mind is to exercise it. And so we're exercising it through this method, the fasting method, where I say, okay, that's it. Or just even trying, just try not like skipping a meal. Like you have breakfast, you don't have lunch, you have something light in the evening. So don't, as I said, don't just jump into every thought. Give yourself some space. And then you say to yourself, okay, let me just restrain myself. Let me see how long I can last. And in that way, you stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would love to add what's beautiful in this idea of cultivating this habit of fasting once a week and doing it on a persistent basis, on a constant basis, week after week after week, is that you actually work on your willpower muscles week after week after week. You do not quit. You do it 1 week and then the next week and then the next week, another 24 hours, another 24 hours. And then you see that you actually get to the point when you can fast even longer. And it also starts affecting other areas of your life because your willpower becomes stronger. That's actually, I think, should be the main purpose or one of the main purposes of this weekly fasting. Because in terms of cleansing, if you do prolonged ones, it's more effective. But in terms of cultivating willpower, cultivating deep values, cultivating spiritual strength, you can hardly find anything in the world that could compare to that because you do it on a consistent basis. And that's actually the purpose of our group. So yeah.
I think question there, Eric.
Yes. Let's see.
What is your
Okay, no, it's just this is brilliant, Aruna. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for hosting the session. Very helpful. Yeah, Aruna, so maybe we could use this time when we have no more questions. Please tell us about if people want to know more about those subjects, you're a prolific author. You have authored quite a few books. So could you please direct people to your books if people want to know more about it? Because this webinar just focused on the main points, but I personally would love to know more about this subject. So
Okay, so yeah, the meditation that I practice is Raja Yoga meditation, which is again, it's actually mastery over the mind. So Raja meaning the king, the sovereign, and yoga through a higher connection with yourself. So we're trying to develop this connection with our higher self. So we all believe that we have a higher self, a purer self. In other words, we can all be nicer, more kinder, more humble, more giving. We can all be better in our qualities. And that is my higher self. So in meditation, I'm getting in touch with that higher self. And every time I get a taste of that, then I want to bring more of that into my life. So as soon as I realize, wow, I have so much love. And then in my life, I have so much love to give because I realize I'm so full of that love. The only reason why we don't give love is because we don't think we have enough. You see, we can't give because we think we don't have, we're empty. But when I sit in meditation and then I realize there is this well of love inside of me, then I'm able to give. And the same is true for peace and kindness and honesty and all these virtues and qualities. So when I sit in meditation, I'm emerging these qualities from inside of myself. So yes, this is meditation that is taught by the Brahma Kumaris. You can visit their site. You can visit my blog for articles. Lately, actually, I've been more into the videos, but I've been writing for 10 years. The blog has been running for 11 years now. And yes, we have a few books. So the books can be bought from inspiredstillness.com, which is the Brahma Kumari's London media house. And they have lots of other material. They have tapes, CDs, well, lots of meditation, lots of audio as well. So, and posters for meditation as focal points, all kinds of things. So you can go to inspiredstillness.com or you can go to my blog. And yes, we teach meditation. At the moment, we're doing on Zoom. But yeah, we have meditation centers around the Middle East. So yeah, if you're interested in meditation, you can get in touch with me.
very good. Thank you very much. And would you suggest any particular of your books that deals with the subjects of today's webinar, or it's pretty much all of them?
Yeah, none in particular. But yeah, I'm an advocate of I'm an advocate of really mastering the mind, pushing yourself, pushing your limits. But there is one book which is all on meditation. So It's Time to Meditate is the book that focuses on meditation techniques. But my last book, which is It's Time to Do the Inner Work, that one I created more as a journal. And there's things to work through and write and pages that you can journal. So that is a little different kind of a book. So that's It's Time to Do the Inner Work.
So if a person wants to change their thinking pattern, what kind of the sequence of the books would you recommend?
Oh, there's no sequence, Eric.
No sequence. No sequence. Okay, no problem. So
Because all the books are written in such a way, it's not that you read from beginning to end. Like you can just
yeah,
open the book at any page and you know, that's what people say they like about the book. That
I see. So it's pretty much what your intuition tells you. Whatever book your intuition tells you to buy, then you just buy it and you read it and you apply it.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now we have another question here from Ravital. She says, thank you very much. It's inspiring. One question. When we are going through some crisis, or people who have experienced a tragedy, like losing a loved one, how can they make themselves think positively and not sink in sorrow and depression? Very good question, Ravital.
Yeah, see, it's not easy, that's for sure. But I have to see, and I have to tell myself what's going to help this soul on their journey. Now, if I'm going to pull them with my thoughts, my sad thoughts, my longing thoughts, my thoughts of insecurity, what will I do without them? If I'm pulling them with these thoughts, that's not helping the soul. And so I need to send this soul light. This is what we do actually. Soul leaves the body. We do meditation for the soul. And this is our form of helping the soul on their journey. So, of course, we miss the soul, but we're not pulling them with our emotion. So, I'm not saying we think positive in that moment, but we have to think selflessly in that moment. It's actually our selfishness that wants to hold them back. So, in that moment, I have to say, okay, it was their time to come off the train. That was the end of their journey here. We don't know what their journey, onward journey is. And we really try to help them on their onward journey. Because this little phase between birth and whatever thereafter is, you know, can be confusing for the soul. So it's our job really to stay light, to stay peaceful, and to send powerful vibes to that soul. So it's not literally about being positive. It's not, I think, oh, you know, there must be a reason why they left. Of course, there is a reason why they left. It's the end of their karma there. But what I would focus on more is just the selfless giving. That is a form of positive thinking.
Thank you very much. Now, Carla says, could you please put the affirmation slide to take a picture? Now, I just want to say that all this webinar will be posted on YouTube on our weekly fasting group channel, and probably Aruna is going to post it as well somewhere. So you will find everything online, and you can either join the fasting group using the number that I put there, or just send me a WhatsApp message, and I will send you the link to this webinar. It will probably be there even tomorrow. So don't worry about that. Everything is there, will be there. Okay, guys, so do you have any more questions before we are wrapping it up? Let's see. So we have, and also I wanted to say that below the videos, there will be all the contact information about Aruna's books, purchasing the books, about the meditation site that she recommended, and other things. So you will have all the details there. Okay, Aruna, is there anything else that you would love to add before we finish?
No, I want to thank you, Eric. You're also an inspiration, and you keep us on the track. And Eric, I mean, this is just one seminar. I know many of you know me, you came through knowing me, but also Eric does put a lot of time and effort organizing the seminars for the fasting group, for the fasting mindset. So if you want to join the group or at least subscribe to his site, then you can hear from other as I said, much more experienced fasters. So some people have been on fruit for years, and some people have been fasting by eating nothing for days, no
Right.
water, no food. So there's a lot to learn from everyone. And so I think, yeah, keep learning, keep growing.
Yes, yes. And we also have those seminars almost every week. We invite different, very interesting speakers from the background of fasting, spirituality, and health and other things, holistic doctors, spiritual teachers, and other kinds of people. So you're welcome. And as I said in the beginning, I heard lots of amazing stories like people start adopting this habit of fasting and different changes happen in their lives because by fasting you cut out some very strong dependency and you kind of open up the space in your life and people's relationship gets changed, people's businesses gets changed. Actually, I got confused because I said that we got those testimonials from people who do these weekly fasts. It was my mistake. I heard these stories from the guy who leads prolonged fasts, but not because those things don't happen on the short fasts, but because we just haven't collected enough testimonials, which actually brought me the idea to ask people to write those testimonials, people who have been cultivating these habits. But so far, I only heard it from the guy who leads prolonged fasts about his clients. Anyway, so I wanted to apologize. It's important for me to be honest with everyone. And but many changes can happen in your life as a result of adopting this habit of this 24 hours fast once a week. And yeah, and if you need any help in that, you're mm, you're welcome to contact me. I posted my phone number, my WhatsApp number, few times during this webinar. And yeah, so please feel free and blessings to all of you.
Eric, shall we just let them know about tomorrow night seminar?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can advertise it, no problem.
So tomorrow night there is conflict management, conflict resolution. So if you'd like to join that, you're welcome. And here's the picture. You can just take a photo of that. Organized by the West Coast, Sacramento.
Mhm. Maybe you could give few points about which you will be talking.
Yeah, so well, it's about conflict management. So let me say also that there's a free download of my book from my blog on conflict resolution. So whoever likes, that's my gift to the world. And it has a lot of good content in terms of how to manage your emotions and how to uh, use communication skills, how to use the conflict resolution method, how to use inquiry and not judgment. So there's many tips and tools in that. And so yeah, tomorrow night they wanted to hear about some of those tools. So I will be bringing those ideas. Basically, yeah, it could be small conflict to large conflict, but the principles are the same. And again, I come from a very spiritual approach. So that means as I manage myself, I'm able to manage my world. So there will be a more spiritual approach to that conflict resolution.
Yeah, Aruna, thank you very much. I was also thinking it might be really relevant for many people who are specifically on their fasting journey, because while fasting, we oftentimes might we might become more irritable than usual, more prone to conflict, and it is really important to have those tools of conflict resolution. That's what I was thinking about while looking at the promo.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Aruna.
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much. It was really, really enlightening. It's amazing to be reminded all those simple truths over and over and over again. And it's never enough. Never enough.
I'm reminding myself, Eric.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's part of our inner work to do that every day on a personal basis, to be exposed to the right information, right people who would remind us all those things. So, so important to remain positive and by that to make the world a better place. So thank you very much, Aruna, and hopefully we'll have